there is a force that drives every human being, an unseen current beneath our actions, thoughts, and emotions. It's not something we always recognize or consciously understand, but it's always there. This force is what compels someone to run toward their dreams with relentless focus, while another person might retreat into self, doubt, or destructive behavior. It's what makes one person rise after failure and another give up. It's the internal engine that powers every choice we make, every risk we take, and every fear we avoid. This force is motivation, but not the superficial kind. It's not the fleeting excitement that comes from watching an inspiring video or hearing a moving story. It's much deeper. It's the internal wiring that shapes how we respond to the world, how we perceive ourselves, and ultimately how we live our lives. This driving force is built from a complex mix of our beliefs, values, emotions, and needs. It's formed early, shaped by experience, family, culture, and even trauma, but over time, we start to operate on autopilot, making decisions not based on conscious choice, but based on what this internal system is pushing us toward. Most people think they're in control of their lives because they're making decisions every day. What they don't realize is that most of those decisions are happening inside a framework they never designed. They're being guided by what they think they should do, or by what helps them feel safe, validated, or in control, even if those behaviors are actually holding them back. What's even more powerful about this force is that it doesn't care whether it's driving us toward growth or toward destruction. It simply follows the path of least resistance to meet a need. For example, someone might chase career success, not because they truly love their work, but because success gives them significance. Another person might avoid challenges not because they're lazy, but because avoiding risk gives them certainty. From the outside, it looks like they're making logical choices, but underneath, it's emotion and unmet needs that are steering the wheel. This is why two people in the exact same situation can respond completely differently. One person loses their job and uses it as fuel to start a business. Another loses their job and sinks into depression. The difference isn't circumstance, it's the internal force they're operating from. Until we become aware of that force, we live reactively. We keep repeating patterns, wondering why things don't change, blaming other people, our upbringing, or even fate. But the truth is, this force can be understood, studied, and even redirected. We can condition ourselves to respond differently, to act in alignment with who we want to be, instead of being slaves to our past programming. The key is recognizing that this invisible force is not fate. It's a system, and systems can be reprogrammed. Once you begin to observe it, you can begin to master it. That's when life starts to move with intention and not just momentum. Every human being is driven by a set of core needs, universal forces that shape our behavior at the deepest level. These needs are not desires or wants. They are fundamental motivators that govern how we think, feel, and act. Regardless of age, culture, or background, these needs influence the choices we make and the emotions we experience. What's fascinating is that these needs often operate beneath our conscious awareness. We might think we're pursuing a certain goal for practical reasons, but beneath the surface, we're actually striving to meet one or more of these core needs. The first is the need for certainty. As human beings, we all want to feel safe and secure. We need to know that we can avoid pain and gain pleasure. This is why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that are toxic, or routines that no longer serve them, because the familiar, even when it's painful, feels safer than the unknown. Certainty gives us stability, a sense of control, and predictability in an unpredictable world. At the same time, we also crave variety, the second need. While certainty brings comfort, variety brings excitement. Life without change becomes dull. We seek new experiences, challenges, entertainment, and emotional stimulation. This is why people take risks, travel, try new hobbies, or create chaos when things get too predictable. It's not because they're unstable, it's because variety is a need, and when it's not met in healthy ways, we'll unconsciously find a way to get it, even if it's through drama or conflict. The third need is significance, the deep desire to feel important, special, unique, or needed. This need is powerful because it's tied to identity. People seek significance through achievements, titles, wealth, or even through problems. For some, being the best at something brings significance. For others, being the victim, the one who always has it the hardest, fulfills that same need. It's not about what happens. It's about the meaning we assign to it, and whether it makes us feel like we matter. The fourth is love and connection. We all need to feel close to others. Love is the oxygen of the soul. Some people will settle for connection if they can't get love through friendship, family, or even conflict. Conflict, ironically, can create connection because it forces engagement. People will do almost anything to avoid feeling alone, even if it means engaging in destructive behavior. The final two needs are of the spirit, not the personality: growth and contribution. Growth is the need to develop, to expand, to improve ourselves. Without growth, we feel stuck, stagnant, and lifeless. Contribution is the need to give beyond ourselves, to serve, to help, to leave a mark. It's where true fulfillment lies. Achieving your own goals feels good, but contributing to others creates lasting meaning. These needs are not just ideas, they are the blueprint for human motivation. Every decision we make, every pattern we run, is an attempt to meet one or more of these needs. The form may differ, but the function is the same. We often judge ourselves harshly for the habits we can't break or the choices we continue to make that seem to work against us. Whether it's procrastination, self-doubt, overworking, people-pleasing, emotional eating, or avoiding risk, we tend to see these behaviors as flaws or weaknesses. But in truth, these patterns are not a reflection of who we really are. They're strategies, often unconscious ones, that we've developed over time to meet our emotional needs. These behaviors didn't appear out of nowhere. They formed in response to pain, fear, or uncertainty. They are coping mechanisms, survival tools, or shortcuts the mind has created to get us out of discomfort and into some sense of relief, even if that relief is temporary or comes at a long-term cost. When someone constantly seeks approval, it may look like insecurity, but it's often a way to meet the need for love and connection. When someone explodes in anger easily, it might seem like poor emotional control, but underneath, they may be trying to feel significant or regain certainty in a moment where they feel powerless. Even avoidance, putting things off or staying in the comfort zone, isn't laziness. It's a strategy to avoid failure, judgment, or feeling not enough. Once we understand that these patterns are trying to serve us in some way, we begin to take a new perspective. Instead of shame or guilt, we move toward curiosity and compassion. Why did I start doing this? What need is it trying to meet? And is there a better way? The problem with many of these patterns is not that they're completely useless, it's that they are outdated. They may have worked in the past or in a certain situation, but now they are limiting. They are keeping us stuck in cycles we no longer want to live in, and the more we repeat them, the more they become wired into our nervous system. Our brain learns through repetition, and it becomes efficient at running the same emotional and behavioral loops. Before long, we're not consciously choosing these behaviors, they're running on autopilot, and because they feel familiar, we mistake them for our identity. But identity is not the same as pattern. Who we are is far greater than the habits we've formed. Just because we've been a certain way doesn't mean we're bound to stay that way. The moment we separate our sense of self from our behaviors, we create the space to make a new choice. That's the turning point. Real transformation doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from rewiring, from recognizing that the pattern is not permanent and that we can meet the same emotional needs in more empowering ways. When we shift the strategy but keep the need, we can finally begin to break the cycle. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who we've always been beneath the protective layers we've built. The goal isn't to erase the past, it's to understand it, learn from it, and upgrade the operating system we've been living from. Real change doesn't happen because time passes. It doesn't happen just because we read a book, attend a seminar, or write down our goals. Change happens the moment we make a true decision, and not just a preference or a wish, a real decision, a decision that says, this is how it's going to be, no more excuses, no more negotiation, no more going back. That kind of decision carries energy. It creates a psychological shift. It shuts the door on the old path and forces us to find a new way forward. Most people think they've made a decision when all they've done is expressed a desire. There's a massive difference between wanting something and committing to it. Wanting leaves room for plan B, for comfort zones, for fallback options. Commitment eliminates anything that doesn't serve the outcome. People stay stuck for years not because they lack information, but because they haven't made the kind of decision that turns a should into a must. They say things like, I should eat better, I should start that business, I should stop tolerating this, but should changes nothing. The only time a life truly shifts is when a person says, I must. That's when urgency takes over. That's when the mind and body align. That's when you stop entertaining excuses and start demanding more of yourself. We all have moments in life when we get fed up, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. That's when the decision is made. It doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from a breaking point, a moment of truth where we say, enough. That kind of decision doesn't require years of preparation. It doesn't require external permission. It happens in an instant. In 1 second, you can decide to stop being the victim and start taking control. In one breath, you can decide to no longer be defined by your past. This shift may begin in the mind, but its impact is physical, emotional, and spiritual. Your physiology changes, your energy shifts, your focus locks in. That's the power of a decision. Once it's made, the universe responds. Resources begin to show up. Opportunities that were invisible suddenly become obvious. People start treating you differently because you're showing up differently. The world mirrors your level of certainty and conviction. But a true decision is followed by action. Without action, a decision is just an idea. The moment you decide something, you take a step. Even if it's small, even if it's uncertain, you move. That movement creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence reinforces the decision, and now you're in a new pattern, a new cycle that feeds progress instead of paralysis. The beauty of this is that you don't have to wait for the perfect time or the right mood. You don't have to be fearless or fully ready. You just have to decide and then move. That's how power is reclaimed, one decision at a time. The quality of our lives is shaped by the quality of the questions we ask ourselves. Questions are not just tools for gaining information. They are the steering wheel of our focus. In any moment, what we choose to focus on determines how we feel, and how we feel drives what we do. Our internal questions, most of which we don't even realize we're asking, are constantly directing our attention. They shape our interpretation of reality and create the emotional states we live in. Ask a disempowering question, and you'll feel stuck, frustrated, or small. Ask an empowering one, and you'll feel motivated, resourceful, and clear. It's not about having all the answers, it's about learning to ask better questions. Most people are stuck not because they're broken or lacking willpower, but because they keep asking themselves questions that reinforce their limitations. Why does this always happen to me? What if I fail again? Why am I never good enough? These questions don't inspire action. They trap us in a loop of doubt and fear. They focus us on problems, not solutions, but the mind will always seek to answer whatever question you give it. If you ask it why you always mess things up, it will search your memory bank and give you every reason and past example to prove that idea true. That's how powerful questions are. They don't just reflect your beliefs, they reinforce them. The good news is that by changing the questions, you can change the entire trajectory of your thinking. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try, what can I learn from this? Instead of, what if I fail? Try, what's the best that could happen if I succeed? These kinds of questions shift your focus from fear to possibility, from weakness to strength. They help you reconnect with your power, your creativity, your sense of purpose. It's not about pretending problems don't exist, it's about learning to see them through a new lens. When you're trying to break a pattern or create lasting change, three questions can unlock massive insight. First, what am I tolerating in my life right now that I know I need to stop? This cuts through the noise and gets honest. It forces you to confront the standards you've been living beneath. Second, who do I need to become in order to live the life I truly want? This opens the door to identity, level change. It moves you from focusing on what you need to do to focusing on who you need to be. Behavior follows identity. Third, what do I really want and why do I want it? Clarity of desire creates direction, but purpose creates fuel. When your why is strong, you'll find the energy to push through obstacles, setbacks, and fear. Without it, even the best strategy will fall apart under pressure. These questions don't just help you think, they help you lead yourself. They put you back in the driver's seat of your emotions, your choices, and your destiny. They give you access to the wisdom, courage, and clarity that's already inside you, waiting to be activated. Purpose is the fuel that drives persistence. When you're deeply connected to why you're doing something, you tap into a level of strength and energy that goes far beyond discipline or motivation. Purpose is what gets you up early and keeps you going late. It's what makes you push through the pain, the setbacks, the doubt, and the fear. When your reason for acting is tied to something meaningful, something bigger than just comfort, approval, or status, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses and start finding solutions. Purpose gives meaning to the struggle, and when the struggle has meaning, it becomes fuel instead of friction. Without a clear sense of purpose, people drift. They might be busy, but they lack direction. They may have goals, but those goals feel hollow because they're not tied to something deeper. That's when you see people chasing success, but still feeling empty when they get there. They hit milestones, make money, earn recognition, and yet something inside still feels off. That's the absence of true purpose. Purpose isn't just about outcomes, it's about identity. It's about aligning your actions with who you are and what you stand for. When you do that, your work becomes an extension of your values, not just a means to an end. When the why is strong enough, the how reveals itself. People who are purpose-driven don't need perfect conditions. They don't wait for the stars to align or for fear to disappear. They act in spite of fear because the mission matters more than their comfort. That's what creates momentum. That's what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Purpose is what makes a parent work 3 jobs to give their kids a better life. It's what makes an athlete train through injury, what makes an entrepreneur face rejection 100 times without quitting. It's not that these people don't struggle, they just have something worth struggling for. Clarity of purpose also simplifies decisions. When you know what matters most, saying no becomes easier. You stop wasting energy on distractions, drama, and things that don't align with your vision. You become focused, intentional, and powerful. That's the kind of energy people feel when someone is truly on a mission. They're not just doing things, they're being led by something within. They radiate conviction, and that conviction becomes contagious. The beautiful thing is, you don't need to have a world-changing mission to live with purpose. Purpose doesn't have to be loud or flashy. It just has to be real. It could be creating a life where your children feel loved and empowered. It could be turning your pain into a message that helps others heal. It could be building something you're proud of, leading with integrity, or simply becoming the version of yourself that you know you were meant to be. When you operate from that place, you stop waiting for external validation because the fulfillment is already happening from within. Progress is the heartbeat of human happiness. It's not just the achievement of a goal that brings fulfillment. It's the experience of moving forward, growing, and evolving. When we feel like we're making progress, even if it's small, we feel alive. We feel like our efforts matter, that we're in motion towards something meaningful. On the other hand, stagnation, feeling stuck in the same place, doing the same things, seeing no improvement, drains us of energy. It leads to frustration, apathy, and eventually hopelessness. This is why someone who's lost 50 pounds feels more excited than someone who's been the same weight for years, even if that person is already in great shape. It's not where we are It's whether we're moving, progress builds confidence, each small win creates a ripple effect in your psychology. You start to believe in your ability to follow through, to overcome, to grow. That belief creates momentum, and momentum is power. The most successful people aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who keep getting up, learning, adjusting, and taking the next step. They've trained themselves to value progress over perfection. They know that waiting until everything is right, every detail is figured out, every fear is gone, is a recipe for paralysis. Instead, they move forward imperfectly and relentlessly because they understand that action breeds clarity. Even 1 inch of progress can shift your entire emotional state. You could be having a rough day, feeling overwhelmed or discouraged, and all it takes is one bold step, making the call you've been avoiding, completing a task you've been procrastinating, or simply showing up fully in a conversation to reignite your sense of agency. Progress isn't always dramatic. It often shows up in the form of discipline, consistency, or tiny breakthroughs, but those seemingly small moments compound into massive transformation over time. That's the power of daily commitment, not to the result, but to the process. This is why it's so important to track your progress in ways that are meaningful to you, not just metrics and numbers, but emotional, mental, and behavioral shifts. Did you handle a situation today with more calm than before? That's progress. Did you speak your truth in a space where you once stayed silent? That's progress. Did you take responsibility instead of blaming? That's progress. The more you recognize and celebrate those moments, the more motivated you become to keep going. It reinforces the idea that growth is happening, even when the external results haven't fully shown up yet. Progress also awakens purpose. When you see yourself moving forward, it reminds you that you're capable of change, that your future doesn't have to look like your past. It breathes hope into the process, and hope is fuel. People can handle almost any challenge when they believe that what they're doing is making a difference. Progress makes the effort feel worth it. It turns struggle into strength and fear into fuel. That's why in any situation, no matter how hard or uncertain, the most powerful question you can ask yourself is, what's one step I can take today? Because progress, no matter how small, is the path to transformation. The environment you surround yourself with plays a critical role in shaping your behavior, mindset, and ultimately your destiny. It's not just about the physical space, but also the people, the information, and the culture that you engage with daily. Think about it. How many times have you tried to change a habit, start a new routine, or think differently, only to find yourself slipping back into old patterns? The invisible hand pulling you back is often your environment. When you're surrounded by negativity, doubt, or distraction, it's incredibly difficult to maintain focus, energy, and commitment. Conversely, when your environment is supportive, inspiring, and aligned with your goals, transformation becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Your environment is a mirror and a magnet. It reflects who you are and attracts the people, ideas, and opportunities that match your current state of being. If you want to change your life, the first step is often to change your environment. This means intentionally choosing what you expose yourself to, who you spend your time with, the media you consume, the places you frequent, and even the language you use internally and externally. These factors either feed your growth or feed your limitations. It's a choice, and though it may feel easier to blame external circumstances, the truth is that your environment is largely within your control. Consider the power of peer influence. Studies show that we tend to adopt the habits, beliefs, and attitudes of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If those people are negative, complacent, or fearful, it's likely you'll start to mirror those qualities, often without realizing it. But if they are driven, optimistic, and supportive, you'll feel energized and motivated to raise your own standards. This is why high achievers are so deliberate about their networks. They create circles of influence that push them to grow, hold them accountable, and inspire new possibilities. But environment isn't just about other people. It's also about the cues in your surroundings that trigger automatic behaviors. For example, if your workspace is cluttered and chaotic, your mind may feel scattered and stressed. If your social media feeds are filled with drama and negativity, your emotional state will reflect that. On the other hand, a clean, organized space and positive, Uplifting content create a foundation for clarity, focus, and inspiration. Small changes in your environment can have outsized effects on your daily performance and mindset. Creating an empowering environment also means setting boundaries. It means saying no to distractions, toxic relationships, and habits that don't serve your vision. It means designing your day to include rituals that support your energy and focus, like morning routines, scheduled breaks, and time for reflection. It means curating what you feed your mind, choosing books, podcasts, conversations, and experiences that elevate your thinking and expand your perspective. Ultimately, your environment becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you want to become the person who lives with courage, clarity, and purpose, your environment must support that identity. Change the environment, and you change the possibilities available to you. It's not about perfection or control, it's about awareness and intentionality. The question isn't whether your environment affects you. It's how you will use that knowledge to create a life that reflects your highest potential. Energy is the currency of achievement. Without it, even the best plans and intentions remain dormant ideas. The way you manage your energy, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, directly impacts your capacity to perform, to focus, and to persevere through challenges. Energy isn't just about how much sleep you get or whether you exercise. It's about how you consciously cultivate vitality in every area of your life. It's about creating rhythms and habits that renew and replenish you rather than drain you. When your energy is high and well managed, you show up as your best self, clear, confident, and capable. When it's low, everything feels harder. Tasks seem overwhelming, motivation wanes, and stress compounds. Physical energy is the foundation. Nourishing your body with quality food, movement, rest, and hydration creates the fuel your brain and muscles need. Without this base, mental clarity and emotional balance become nearly impossible to sustain. But energy goes beyond the physical. Emotional energy is about managing your feelings in a way that supports your goals. That means becoming aware of what drains you, whether it's toxic relationships, unresolved conflicts, or negative self-talk, and making conscious choices to shift your emotional state. Techniques like deep breathing, mindfulness, and gratitude can help maintain emotional equilibrium and increase resilience. Mental energy involves focus and clarity. The modern world bombards us with distractions, making it harder to concentrate on what truly matters. Protecting your mental space means setting boundaries around information intake, avoiding multitasking, and creating periods of deep work. It also means feeding your mind with positive, empowering thoughts and limiting exposure to negativity. When your mental energy is high, decision-making becomes easier, creativity flows, and problem-solving accelerates. Spiritual energy often gets overlooked, but it's equally crucial. This is the energy derived from a sense of connection, to a purpose, a community, or something larger than yourself. When spiritual energy is nurtured, it provides a wellspring of motivation and peace that sustains you even in difficult times. Practices like meditation, reflection, and acts of service can deepen this connection and restore a sense of meaning. Managing energy also means recognizing your natural rhythms. Some people are most alert and productive in the morning, others in the afternoon or evening. Aligning your most important tasks with your peak energy times creates efficiency and reduces burnout. It's about working smarter, not just harder. Energy management requires daily intentionality. Small choices, like taking a walk outside, pausing to breathe deeply, or unplugging from technology, accumulate and create a reservoir of vitality. It's not about perfection but progress. When you prioritize energy, you increase your capacity to take on challenges, maintain discipline, and sustain enthusiasm. The people who achieve lasting success are not just those with talent or knowledge. They are those who master their energy. They understand that energy is a resource to be cultivated, protected, and renewed. It's the fuel that powers action, creativity, and resilience, enabling you to show up fully for the life you want to create. Growth and transformation demand a commitment to continuous learning and adaptation. Life is dynamic, and the moment we stop evolving, we start stagnating. The journey toward who we want to become is not a straight line. It's filled with twists, setbacks, and moments of discomfort. But those challenges are the very soil from which change grows. Embracing the process of lifelong learning means being open to feedback, willing to face uncomfortable truths, and ready to pivot when necessary. It means recognizing that failure is not a permanent condition, but a necessary step on the path to mastery. When you adopt a growth mindset, you see obstacles as opportunities to expand rather than reasons to quit. Change requires humility. It asks us to acknowledge what we don't know and to release the need to be perfect or have all the answers. This vulnerability is often the gateway to deeper insight and breakthroughs. People who resist change often do so because they are attached to their identity as it currently exists. The familiar beliefs, behaviors, and narratives they've built over years. Letting go of those patterns feels risky because it threatens the sense of security that comes from knowing who you are. But true transformation happens when you embrace uncertainty and lean into discomfort. It's in those moments that growth accelerates and new possibilities emerge. Another essential element is patience. While the desire for quick results is natural, lasting change takes time. It requires consistent effort and the willingness to persist through phases where progress feels invisible or slow. Many people give up just before a breakthrough because they expect transformation to be instantaneous. But the most meaningful changes happen gradually as small, incremental shifts build momentum. By committing to the process, rather than fixating solely on the outcome, you cultivate resilience and develop the habits that sustain long-term success. Adaptability is also key. The world around us is constantly shifting, and clinging rigidly to old ways of thinking or doing can limit growth. Being adaptable means remaining curious and flexible, always ready to learn new skills, explore different perspectives, and refine your approach. It's about staying resourceful in the face of change and not letting fear or complacency hold you back. When you cultivate adaptability, you become better equipped to navigate uncertainty and seize emerging opportunities. Ultimately, growth is a journey of becoming more fully yourself. It's not about conforming to someone else's idea of success or perfection, but about uncovering your unique strengths, values, and passions. As you evolve, you shed limiting beliefs and expand your capacity to live authentically and powerfully. This ongoing process is what keeps life vibrant and meaningful. It invites you to embrace every experience as a lesson, every challenge as a gift, and every day as a chance to step closer to the person you're meant to be. The journey to understanding why we do what we do is, at its core, a journey to ourselves. It's about uncovering the invisible forces that shape our choices, emotions, and actions, and then using that awareness to create a life of meaning, power, and fulfillment. When we recognize the true drivers behind our behavior, our needs, our decisions, our questions, and our purpose, we unlock the ability to transform not just what we do, but who we are. This transformation is fueled by momentum, supported by our environment, and energized by how we manage our vitality. It requires us to commit deeply to embrace growth and to celebrate progress, no matter how small. By mastering these elements, we don't just change habits or circumstances, we rewrite the story of our lives. The power to live intentionally, to break free from old patterns, and to create lasting impact lies within each of us, waiting for the moment we decide to step forward and claim it.